As the Cardinals 2025 season gets underway, we're chatting with Brendan Donovan today, St. Louis Cardinals utility man, about his season and upcoming expectations for the 2025 Cardinals, personal life, and all of this and more on this episode of Deal on the Cards. Welcome back into Deal on the Cards. I'm Josh, joined by Sandy and Andrew as always, and we're just honored to have a special guest with us today, Brendan Donovan, the St. Louis Cardinals. You guys all know him already. Brendan, how are you doing? How's your spring training? And thanks for coming on.
First off, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Been a fan of the podcast for a while, so it's cool to be on it. We're down here in Florida. We're getting some sun. We're getting some reps. We're knocking some rust off, and feeling pretty good. We've had 2 days of games. Starting to settle in a little bit. Starting to add up some at-bats, and like I said, we're still knocking some rust off. But I'm excited to be here. It's been cool to be in the stadium, have some fans around.
Yeah, speaking of, we're recording on Sunday after the game against Astros today. How exciting was it to watch J.J. Weatherholt just nuke one to opposite field today?
Absolutely. I've been around him for probably almost 2 weeks now, and what a good dude. I mean, obviously he doesn't talk a whole lot. He's pretty quiet, but just watching, I like to watch people's routines, how they go about their business. His attention to detail has been there. His work's been consistent, and we knew the dude could hit. So it's like to see him in there. Moment's not too big for him, get some really good, comfortable swings off. And then when he hit that ball, he knew it. So it's cool to see. I'm sure pretty cool for him to enjoy that moment as well.
Obviously, we're all super excited to have spring training back. There's baseball back. We've got stuff to watch and follow. But for fans and those of us outside the organization, it's been a different offseason. But in spite of all the noise, you've been really vocal about your beliefs in the team. What gives you confidence that this team is ready to surprise some people in 2025?
Yeah, so, I mean, the only thing that we just didn't re-sign the free agents. But, I mean, we still got some real players here, right? Some guys that are still here. I mean, you look at the rotation at the top. I mean, Sonny's one of the best arms in the game, right? I mean, that's your number one that you're rolling out. And you look at the defense, right? You got Mason up the middle. I mean, he's coming off of a great year, and I expect him to build on that. I mean, so there are pieces all over the field. I mean, you got one of the best, probably the best third baseman of all time over at third, right? And then Burley had a great year. Wilson, when he's healthy, man, he takes some of the best at-bats in the league. Walker looks great. Lars, man, you know what he can do. He's an on-base machine. Ciani and Victor up the middle. Pedro and Herrera behind the dish. I mean, it's just hard not to get excited because I do see the level of I don't think I missed anyone. I hope I didn't, but you see the level of work that goes in behind the scenes, and you see genuinely how much these people care, and that's what gets me excited, and that's why I'm excited for the year.
Yeah, over the last couple of seasons, your teammates and coaches have been pretty vocal about your role in the leader your role as a leader in the clubhouse. Do you see that as a responsibility that you have going into this year as one of the guys with some more experience, especially now that guys like Goldie and Lennon Gibson aren't on the team anymore?
I think that's something that we should all try to be proud of. When you show up, it's all about kind of doing the right thing, right? Setting a good example, trying to be a good example, trying to get to know people. Do I have everything figured out? Absolutely not, and I never will. I'm still learning on a daily basis. But it is something that I try to invest in my teammates, and I try to get to know them and try to, when you care about someone as a person, you know them and their family. I think that's when you can really build a core camaraderie, like cohesiveness throughout the group. And that's how I try to do it, leading by example and just investing in people.
Yeah, one of the questions that I feel like came up a lot last offseason, especially as the Cardinals were bringing in some veterans and talking a lot about veteran leadership is, well, isn't that what the coaching staff is for, or the players already on the roster? Can you speak to what peer-to-peer leadership looks like in the clubhouse versus what a coach can provide or other outside sources?
Yeah, on some of the best teams, obviously the direction is set by the coaching staff. But on some of the best teams, the players police the clubhouse, right? And that's just what I've seen. And when I first came up in 2022, obviously we won the division. We had a great team, but that's what I saw, right? You had a tons of veteran presence that, it's not jumping people's throats. Like, that's not leadership. It's like teaching moments. It's communication, sitting down and having post-game meal with someone. It's going to eat on the road. It's just it's just like hitting with someone, it's being on the field, it's just communication. And then when you do have that relationship and you know what the standards and the expectations and the core values are of the organization, that's leadership, right? It's investing in each other. And then when you do all that, right, when you genuinely care about someone and how they're doing, that's to me how you build like that culture. And that's in 2022, that was that culture that Yachty and Ueno and Albert coming back had set. I mean, even though Albert left for a little while, that was the culture of the St. Louis Cardinals. And it hasn't changed. It's just now we just have a younger core, and it's just all about just making sure that we stay together and, just keep rolling.
Yeah.
So as an individual, versatility is one of your calling cards. Since your debut in 2022, we've watched you play 6 different positions. How many gloves do you carry in your bag, and how do you stay sharp at so many positions?
Yeah, so I got a lot of gloves. I carry an outfield glove, obviously. First baseman's mitt. It's actually pretty cool. It was given to me by Paul Goldschmidt. I still have that same glove. Hasn't gotten a lot of use the last year. And I have an infield glove. I used to change the size based off of if I was playing a corner infield spot or if I was up the middle. Now I just try to keep it consistent, just because sometimes when I'm already changing gloves enough, right, outfield to infield, let's just not throw one that's an in-between size in the mix. So now I'm bringing out 3. I just bring them just to make sure. Sometimes I will flip in the middle of a game. But I have to credit the coaching staff. Obviously, the communication, and Stubby does a fantastic job making sure I'm getting plenty of reps and keeping things on my radar. And like, hey, we hadn't been here in a little while. Let's touch this. Let's work on these angles. Let's work on this feed. Let's throw this footwork. Like, he does a fantastic job. It makes my job a lot easier. So I'm very fortunate for that.
This year, the Cardinals are going to carry 3 catchers, so it's not really a thing. But have you ever in the past had a catcher's mitt in your bag or thought maybe you're the emergency catcher at some point?
I have taken some catching lessons.
Come on.
My rookie year, I took one in San Francisco, and it was terrifying. So if I can stay away from that position, that would be great. We got plenty of good catches. We're good there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you ever get on the mound in a blowout game? Is that something you would consider?
I considered it until I had a UCL surgery, and then I was like,
yeah,
maybe not. I'm on my second one, so I might as well just hang on to this one as long as I can.
Yeah. How special was it for you in your rookie season to be the first ever winner of the utility Gold Glove?
Yeah, I think that's special, not only for myself and my family, but I think that's a great award for baseball. Obviously, you have people that have paved the way well before me that have played all over the field and brought value to their clubs. And for Rawlings to make that award, I think that's very special. And it's just, it kind of gives those utility players a little love. Not that they didn't have it before, but just kind of like, hey, you guys are doing a good job. Keep bouncing all over the field. It does bring some value.
Obviously, you're such a unique player in today's game. Versatility in itself isn't unique necessarily, but the way you've been able to do that and maintain, be a highly productive player at the plate. Is there any players that you emulated growing up, or did you kind of just pick and choose things from like, oh, this is a good shortstop, this is a good outfielder, this is for good first baseman, and you found a way to put it all together in one package? Yeah,
growing up, I didn't have like one specific favorite player. I just enjoyed watching the game. I would watch. I'd just go on YouTube and I'd watch swings, and I'd turn on the TV and just watch games and just like look at things that, what are these guys doing well? And then I compare it to myself. And then it's like, well, you start to realize like everyone's so unique in their own way. Mm-hmm. So I just try to take a couple pieces here, a couple pieces there. I did kind of lean towards the right-handed throwers, the left-handed hitters. I was a Brandon Crawford fan when I was in high school. Obviously, he was the first shortstop to my recollection that had long hair, and I was like, I want to be like that guy. And then to play with him the past year was pretty cool. But I would try to lean towards guys like that because they had the ability to hit left-handed while also playing all over the field. Yeah, what was it like meeting Crawford for the first time then? Because again, you grow up, I emulate him, and obviously you've been around the game for a little bit. Then you've been in a clubhouse with Pujols before, so I don't know if starstruck's the right thing, but like just playing with one of your idols. Yeah, I've met some people over the years, but and don't get me wrong, I was excited to meet the other guys, but I was pretty excited to meet Brandon Crawford and then to spend a season with him and just get to know him and his family. I mean, not only did he have a fantastic career, but he's just a great person as well.
That's great. So then going back to your versatility a little bit, but shifting the focus a little bit towards your offense, like how difficult is it to be someone who comes to the ballpark and isn't necessarily sure where they're going to play each day? Does that impact how you play at the plate at all? Does it make it hard to get comfortable in the box when you're trying to think through all these different things? Or are you someone who's kind of like, I actually like the ability to play everywhere and you want to keep that as a part of your game?
So you can look at it two different ways, right? You try not to let them kind of come together, right? You try to separate offense and defense. And don't get me wrong, it's easier said than done. But sometimes when you're playing a position that you hadn't played in a little while, it does take your mind off that. So it's like you're on defense, you're completely locked in on defense. And then it's like, wow, I'm in the hole. Like now I can change gears. But also I kind of enjoy it, right? I mean, I think it's a challenge, right? I mean, baseball is obviously such a game of failure, but it's another challenge, and I think that's why you enjoy sports. It's just it's you versus you. I mean, at the end of the day, you are playing your opponent, but you are competing against yourself as well. But the offensive side, you know, it's man, what a game of failure. You know, I just try to be as consistent with my routines as possible, and I gain confidence through preparation. So I know if my work is going in, and obviously I trust my coaches. If I'm doing all those things, and there could be some rough weeks. Hopefully there's not a rough month, but sometimes, over the course of 6 months, there could be a rough month. But understanding that if you continue to just be consistent and detail oriented in your routines, then you're going to like where you're at by the end of the year.
So shifting a little bit more toward your focus at the plate, one of the things that you've just done extremely well since coming into the league, since 2022, when you debuted, your 14th in all of baseball non-base percentage. So it's clearly like an elite part of your game. But we've also seen you try to tap into your power a little bit more, get some more slug in there. How do you balance the idea of being like an on-base machine, but also trying to do damage at the plate and not letting like the quest to do more damage impact your ability to get on base often? Like, what does that striking that balance look like?
Yeah, so early, I've always liked numbers, and when I was coming through the minor league system, I started to look into just kind of percentages of how many pitches are out of the zone. There's a lot of pitches. Sometimes it's 50-50, sometimes it's a little over, sometimes it's a little under of pitches in the zone. So you're talking about half the pitches in the strike zone. So that's when I really got to work on kind of the plate discipline and the swing decisions and things like that, where sometimes my swing may not be in a good spot, but, my eyeballs are it, and that's half the battle. So my rookie year, I saw a ton of pitches, right? I was in a lot of deep counts, and I walked a ton. I think I had a really healthy walk rate. And then I was very passive. And then here comes the next year. And I know it was just kind of a half season because I got hurt, but it was like I realized, wow, people are really attacking me. I have to make an adjustment. And I think that's kind of where the taking a couple more chances came in. It's like, I'm not trying to sit here. I just play defense. Now I don't want to play defense on offense, if that makes sense. Like I need to be able to get in there and like take my shot. I need to get a swing off earlier in the count to maybe get some people out of the zone. Because it was way above 50% the next year. So I was like, all right, guys are really starting to attack me. So I'm gonna try to weave it back in. Sorry, I'm kind of going all over the place. So, and then this past year as well, it's like I noticed guys are really starting to attack me. So it's like, what's the best way to kind of get guys out of the zone? It's you kind of got to drive the ball. And for me, it's not always homers, but I do try to hit doubles. So if I can do some damage on a line, maybe I can get some guys out of the zone. And that's how I look at it. But I train swing decisions. I'll have days where I may track some pitches, or I have some days where I'm working off the machine and I'll have someone changing the location around. I'm like, I want to go in this zone and this zone only. Or if I'm doing like my routine and flips, I'll be like, hey, I want you to challenge me on the inner half and try to run a couple in on me, and I want to lay off these. Or if I do go on, and I want to make sure I'm in a good spot. So taking shots earlier in the count is a firm understanding of when to do it, how you're feeling, who you're facing, situation of the game, and then just like challenging swing decisions in the cage. So when you get in the game, you're not like kind of just swinging out of your shoes.
Before we continue this episode, we wanted to thank the presenting sponsor of the Deal in the Cards podcast, 314 Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're located at 9640 Olive Boulevard in Olivet and open 10 to 5 Monday through Friday and 9 to 4 on Saturdays. They buy, sell, and trade all sports cards and Pokemon cards and have the newest selections of packs, boxes, and single cards of local players and stars from around the league. We can't wait for you to check them out and let them know we sent you. The Deal in the Cards podcast is proud to be partnered with Underdog Sports, our favorite place to play fantasy games. You're now eligible to play in Illinois, Missouri, Indiana, and 37 other U.S. states. You got to check out Pick'em. It's so easy to play. You just pick 2 to 8 stats of your favorite players and choose whether they'll go higher or lower. You can win 20 times your money by going 5 for 5. If that sounds like fun, sign up with our promo code CARDS to claim your first free pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. We can't wait to see your entries. Yeah, that's super helpful. And I mean, you talked about going all over the place, but I feel like we're all trying to track with you about that. So we really appreciate the explanation with it. It was interesting for you to note like 2023 was a year where people started attacking more. And I remember you mentioned this going into 2024 that you made some adjustments to get aggressive earlier in the counts. And then I think it was like late May till when your season had ended on the IL that you were like a 140 WRC plus guy. You had like 8 home runs over 50 game stretch, like over 400 on base percentage, close to 500 slug. Like, I don't know if you remember that 2023 summer and how you're feeling at the plate. Is there anything you learned during that stretch? Like, okay, that's the kind of where I'm trying to get to. And maybe it just you weren't as comfortable last season and that's kind of where you weren't able to get to those heights again. Or is it just maybe more of a feel thing where baseball again is a game of slumps and highs and lows, and that maybe you're just feeling it right then, but you feel like you've gotten those things down. It just the results didn't play themselves out last year like they did then.
Yeah, I think that obviously it is a game. It's such a long season, right? It's like you're going to feel great, hopefully, 2 months out of the year. You're going to feel bad 2 months out of the year. And then what are you going to do the other 2 months? It's just like, how can you find a way? And as our Turner Ward, our hitting coach the past 2 years would say, like, try to do one thing a day. So during that stretch, I did learn a lot. I started to create a little bit of a forward move, whereas early in my career, I was kind of like a toe down. So now I started to create a little bit of a forward move to, impact the baseball a little more. And then in 2024, I learned a lot about myself as well because I just come off an elbow surgery. So it was just like I have a surgically repaired UCL, and it's like now my right arm either like wants to get to like early extension or it just doesn't want to do anything, and it just kind of just like it gets here and just like kind of rips. So for me early in the season, it was just like trying to navigate like, all right, I have to teach this arm exactly what I needed to do because I had just finished up my rehab like just as like spring training was starting. So I didn't really have like an off season, if that makes sense. It was like a rehab based off season. So it took me a while to feel like myself again. And I think once we got probably around the All-Star break is when I started to feel like myself again. But I still tried to keep that one thing in mind, right? Let's do one thing a day to try to help us win. Make a play, get on base, take an extra base, like whatever it is, drive in a run, sack fly, just try to make it not about results, even though it is a results-driven game. Just try to find that one thing to do to try to help us.
Yeah, I love that you brought up metrics a few minutes ago. I would say we're big numbers guys here, but not everyone in baseball feels the same way. There's a lot of debate amongst fans, the advanced analytics approach versus kind of the old feel approach. How do you blend those together as a player? How do you take in, digest, and apply new information that you receive?
Yeah, so how I look at kind of the technology and the metrics, it's like if I told you needed to go, for example, from our home here in Florida to the complex, and I gave you a bicycle or I gave you a Ferrari, which one were you going to pick? Probably the Ferrari, right? It's because what that information and that technology does, it just helps you kind of make decisions, help you get in the weeds and get where you want to go quicker. It's just more information. So I try to be analytical in my preparation, but old school in my play, if that makes sense. So it's like prepare as much as possible, and then knowing that I have controlled everything that I can in my preparation, and now I'm just going to go play hard.
I love that. So you'd say it's not necessarily, they're not against each other. It's just an extension of one or the other, and put together, it gives you the best outcomes.
I agree, and it's also how you use them.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I've gone down the rabbit hole a little too far, and I'd be like, I need to reel myself back in. But it's just like kind of understanding like what you need, and it comes with trial and error, right? What do you need? What works for you, and what doesn't? And then really kind of like diving into those things that work for you.
So last year, like you said, this is the 2025 group is very similar to the 2024 group, especially when you name off the lineup. It's a lot of the same names, and that was the same from 2023. And there was a lot of promise and there's a lot of talent in this group. But obviously, 2024 was such a step back offensively for the club overall. Is there anything that you can name specifically that kind of played into that? It was just kind of a weird year all around, and maybe like one guy's in a funk and that rubs off on another. Specifically, one thing I noticed is like a lot of you guys like crush fastballs in your career, but then like for some reason, just the like couldn't catch up to the heater and it was overpowering.
Yeah.
So like, what was the kind of I guess your read on the offensive struggles as a team last year?
Yeah, I mean, offense is contagious. I will agree with that, as well as not having success is contagious. I think that, you know, offensively as a group, I don't think we did a great job of runners in scoring position, and that's ultimately, you know, scoring more runs than the opponent is the goal at the end of the night. But I think also the league, I think, made an adjustment on the pitching side. You talk about like the offensive like numbers across the league, like averages were way down. So it's like evaluating years like my year versus like years past just up against each other, comparing to apples. It's like, well, you know, like how were they in relation to the league? And what we saw last year was the first time that I had personally seen in my career where it's like you're getting like four seamers, a pitch that I feel like I had handled really well. I got some balloons going.
Whoa.
And then you're starting to get sinkers. So you got guys that are starting to carry it, starting to sink it. And then you also have guys that have cutters. So you're talking about you're throwing like a four seamer at the top, a sinker on the outer half, a cutter on the inner half, and then you're throwing like kind of the sweeper, right? So now you have a bigger one, and then you have a changeup. So you're talking about every quadrant being covered. And sometimes that fastball you might get might be that heater up late. And it's such a tough pitch to cover, or it could be like up and in. And I think that I'm not making excuses, but we weren't great with runners in scoring position. But I also think that on the pitching side, the league kind of made a little bit of an adjustment. And I think that's for us to make the adjustment back.
That's super interesting. Like, I mean, a lot of people talk about tunneling now with the pitches and stuff. Like, how on earth do you combat that when you do have guys that are throwing sinkers, cutters, fastballs, sweepers, whatever it is, that they all kind of look the same coming out and they go different directions? Like, is that kind of like you're kind of predicting in your head where you think they're going to throw it and you just react if you don't get the pitch you're wanting? Or what can you do at the plate to kind of counteract that?
Yeah, so I think it starts in the weight room, training and patterning your body to be in a good position and hold positions. Ideally, as a hitter, you're trying to be in a strong foundation and rotate it and stay on plane as long as possible to match the plane of a pitch. So it starts there. In the cage, right? Now putting a sense of timing to that training, adding in some velocity, adding in some shapes, there are now machines that can throw different pitches. They can do sequences, doing that as well. But also, I think it just comes down to this is where we start to get analytical, the game planning aspect. And it's something that Brant Brown is actually very fantastic at. And we're starting to see it now that we're getting into games. It's like they can fall into tendencies as well. So it's like, where are we looking? What pitch does he like? What does he go to when he's in a pinch? What does he use when he likes to get ahead? And that's where I start to love the diving into the weeds a little bit.
Yeah. One of the reasons fans love you so much is that you're clutch. How does your approach change in big spots with runners in scoring position?
I mean, honestly, it doesn't. I think that's kind of how some people can start to get into trouble. It's like when the moment does get a little bigger, it's like where they try to do a little more. What's actually just kind of try to do the same thing. You know, who's on the mound? How am I feeling? What pitch does he like to go to in a pinch? What's the situation of the game? All these things kind of determine my approach, right? I mean, if it's a guy he's a sinker baller and he likes to pitch and he loves to live down on the outer half, right? And I got a guy on third with the infield in, then I probably know that I need to get this thing in the air, try to get something elevated so I can get this guy in. That's just an example of an approach. it's just like nothing really changes. It's just like, all right, what's the objective? All right, and let's just find a way to get this job done.
Yeah, so Brant Brown, we've heard nothing but great things about him out of camp from your teammates. How helpful has it been to have him around the team this spring?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, obviously, when he first got the job, he did a great job of reaching out to us, and we exchanged videos, and we're sending in videos, and I went out and hit with him one time in Arizona. So I'd seen him. We'd started to build a relationship. So when we got down here, we're all kind of on the same page. And then it's just like the routine is so consistent. The work that's going in right now, I feel, is very consistent, and we've been very happy with it. Like I said, we just started tapping into some of the game planning stuff. And it's truly impressive. I mean, just like his ability to comb through, hey, when he's in a pinch, this is what he likes to do. This is his punch out pitch. This is what he likes to use to get ahead. But having him around has been great. I mean, I feel like every team that he's been around, they've had some offensive success.
Yeah, absolutely. And our listeners love watching you on the field, and getting to know you as a player for the Cardinals. But we also want to get to know a little bit more about you and what your life off the field looks like. So obviously playing baseball 162 games is really packed lifestyle, and you're probably extremely busy. How do you center yourself and slow down in the midst of all the responsibilities that you have on the field?
Yeah, I think it's your support group. I got an amazing wife, and I got an 11-month-old little girl. I think that's that. If that's not perspective, I don't know what is. Right, coming home from a game, we've got a pretty cool, what I think is a pretty cool system post game. My wife will drop me off at the field, and she'll come to the game and she'll park in my spot. And after the game, I'll finish what I need to do, and I'll go meet them. And on the ride home, we're just like kind of like, you can talk about the game, you can be happy about the game, you can be pissed off about the game, vent, whatever you need to do. You can not talk, but like that's like kind of our buffer of like, hey, this is your time to get it out of your system. And then once you get home, that car turns off and that car door shuts. Like, all right, on to tomorrow. Like you can still game plan and think about things that you want to do to game plan the next day, but it's like now you're a husband, now you're a dad. It's like that's like kind of our way of trying to, like you said, like separate from it, to wind down from the game. And then in the off seasons, it's just like catching up on missed time. I mean, you're gone. So many flights, so many hotels, living out of the suitcase, things like that. So when you get home, obviously you're still training, but you got a couple more hours in the day where you can hang out, and you can make dinner at home. Sometimes you can make breakfast in the morning. Like it's just kind of like, what do you want to do?
Yeah, and you've spoken about your faith at events at Busch Stadium before. How are you able to stay intentional with that during such a long season?
Yeah. So, man, you think about Sundays, right? And today was a Sunday, right? So it's like a lot of times you got a day game on Sunday, and it could be a travel day. So it's like, how do you have time to go to church? But I think baseball actually does an amazing job of it. Obviously the season is so busy, and in the morning you only got a small amount of time, but we do chapels in the dugouts on Sundays, and there's baseball chapel comes in, and you try to follow, like, this is like what we're working on at this moment, and this is what, and we'll continue, like we'll slowly build on it throughout the season. And last year we try to go through the whole Bible. It's just like, I think it's pretty cool, because not only does it bring you closer to your teammates, but it's like it's the most important thing you can do. It's your framework or your guideline for how we're supposed to live.
Man, that's super cool. I love hearing about that stuff. Just one thing here. So for fans that don't know, you're born in Germany, so you didn't grow up in St. Louis. But have you found any spots that you love in the city, or what are some of your favorite places to be when you're here with the Cardinals?
Yeah. So it's kind of a hidden gem, but if you know, one of our favorite places to go eat is actually Palmano's. It's I know we lived on the hill for a little bit, but I think this is the best Italian food I've personally ever had. So that's our go-to. It's we've kind of lived all over, but the hill was pretty cool, and obviously we like somewhere where we can get out and we can go for walks and things like that. But obviously downtown, the arch is pretty amazing. The first time I walked up to it, I couldn't believe how freaking big it was. It was pretty amazing, but it's just a cool city. I mean, it's a very passionate city as well. So I think it's our duty to bring them some wins.
That's awesome. Just a couple quick hitters about your teammates here, because you're in the dugout with them. Which of your teammates has the best playlists?
Best playlist. Well, it's funny because Crawford was the DJ last year.
Oh, no way. Come
that's
on.
going to get passed down. It's probably going to have to be, Sonny. Sonny rolls out some pretty good. On his start day, we look forward to it. It's a lot of Wayne, so I think it's pretty cool.
Who's the funniest guy in the clubhouse?
Probably Lars.
Let's go. And then one more here. Who's the most competitive?
Most competitive. Who's extremely competitive is Burley.
Okay.
Burley is very, very competitive, and we actually played some chess the other night, and I beat him, and he was probably as mad as he gets when he gets out. So kind of funny.
It's awesome.
Yeah, completely unrelated, but I'm really excited to watch some of the World Baseball Classic qualifiers that have been going on. Germany isn't in this stage yet, but I think they're coming up in a week or two. Would you consider representing Germany in the World Baseball Classic next year if they were to qualify and make it through?
I considered it. I actually considered going to the qualifier as well. We discussed it, and at one point I was like thinking that I was all in because I went in 2020 to go do the qualifier, but everything got shut down because of COVID. But I thought it would be best for me to be in camp. We got a great young core, and I just thought it would be best for me to just be around. I don't want to miss any time. I want to be around the guys. I want to help build some chemistry and get us ready for the season. So that's why I decided not to do it. And it was a tough decision, but I think it was the right decision.
Is that any learnings from like how the 2023 season started and went with a lot of guys being out from camp from that one? Or is it kind of the opposite effect where you saw all of them gone? It really makes you want to be there, but then you just made that as a personal choice for this year?
I think it was just a personal choice. Obviously, a lot of guys went and played in that. I didn't see it as a bad thing. I think it gave people a lot of opportunities, right? I think it gave you some people to get some more bats, and we saw some really good players come out of it. So I just thought this was just more of a personal decision.
For sure. Well, one more kind of like personal get to know you question. If you weren't playing baseball right now, what do you think you'd be doing in life?
Whoa.
Yeah, curveball there.
I'm going to help you with this one. It'll probably lead you into your next question, but I'd probably be in the military.
Okay. Yeah. So tell us more about that. We got to hear about it at Winter Warm Up a little bit. And obviously you've talked about it before, but your personal connection to military families and your desire to make a difference. So can you share again what it meant to be a finalist for the Bob Feller Act of Valor Award, and then just kind of share with our audience your personal connection to that?
Yeah, it's very, very special. And it's something that I don't take lightly. And I'm grateful to be nominated as a finalist. So a little bit about me. I was born in Germany. My dad, he had just retired as a full bird colonel. He flew the Black Hawk. He's a lifer. I bet if he was on here today, he'd probably tell you he missed putting his boots on. But it was just kind of how we grew up, right? And we didn't think anything of it. We just thought this was normal life. And it is. But to see the sacrifice that not only my father, but my family and my mother made, and families and communities that we got to know, I think it's just something that you can't really describe. It's truly special, and I'm very passionate about it because these men and women sacrifice so much for this country, and I think it's important for us to take care of them if they need it, because they're off overseas, away from their families, different stations here. It doesn't matter, deployments, and they're sacrificing so much for us. So I've partnered with an organization called Team Red, White, and Blue. They're the largest health and wellness for veterans. It's a veteran empowerment movement. It's all about instilling purpose and community back into their lives. It's the owner and CEO, Mike Irwin. We've got to know him and his family really well. We actually went out and saw them they own a farm this past off season. He's a great friend of mine. I think our mentality is directly aligned. We believe in hard work and authenticity and military appreciation. They have members from all 50 states, 285,000 members. They think that they're going to hit over 300,000 this year.
Wow.
This is their 15-year anniversary. And it's a cool story. When I told my dad I partnered with him, he's like, really? He's like, I've been a member since since the inception. I was like, wow, this is pretty special. But so what do they do? That's probably the next question. So when you're in the military, there's a requirement for health and wellness, right? It's probably the most important thing to be able to do your job on a daily basis. So what do? They create a community for you to stay healthy and stay active. And why? So why would you do that? Consistent physical activity not only just heals your body and keeps you moving, but it also heals your mind, right? Anxiety, depression, PTSD, all of this stems from, and it's shown that exercise can actually help that. So accomplishing something hard every day, it reestablishes that sense of purpose and accomplishment. So that is something that I think is truly special. I mean, there's a thing called the Old Glory Ultra Relay. It's something that they do where they run the flag across the country. On May 2nd through the 17th, they're going to run a flag in a relay across the country. So think about that. It's something I'll be locked in on, and I think it's pretty cool. I mean, so it also, not to mention, this organization is massive, right? But it currently like employs spouses or like whoever it is, like family members of those that are serving. So you're creating community there, community creating employment. And so it's just something, when I really dug into it and I got to know Mike and he explained the mission, I was like, man, I'm all in on this. Just tell me how I can help. And we have worked with other organizations in and around St. Louis, the Veterans Community Project as well. They build homes for veterans, homeless veterans that need help getting them back on their feet, establishing an address for them so they can claim VA benefits. And then we're going to do some work this year with the Kauffman Fund as well, a St. Louis company as well. So that's kind of like the rundown. Like I said, I try to weave it all back in. I can get on tangents, but I appreciate you listening.
Yeah, and we appreciate hearing about it. And again, I mean, I know you know this, but we're just going to reiterate the work you're doing is incredible and the cause is awesome. And I know many of our listeners really care about this as well. So thanks for the ways that you advocate for this and put your money where your mouth is really with it into helping just create a better environment for veterans. And so I know that you've mentioned that you're potentially interested in hosting a charity event at some point and potentially even just upping your involvement with all that. So is there anything upcoming this year that fans should be keeping their eyes out for, of ways that they can participate in the work you're doing?
Yeah. So I want to give you more information. I really do, but we're still narrowing out the details right now. But we are going to host our first charity event this year with Team Red, White, and Blue. We want it to be a pretty big event. It's going to be a really, really cool venue that we're going to do it at. I want to tell you, I really do, but I don't think I can just yet. But it's something I'm excited, and I think it can do some real good. If anyone listening, if you do want to sign up to become a member, you just have to download the app or go to the Team Red, White, and Blue website and build a profile. You can discover events near you. You don't even have to be military. 70% are military members, but 20% are family members and 10% are just supporters. So anybody can support them. Man, I hope to continue to do events, and I'd love to do a couple a year. You know, I think it's something that, like I said, these men and women sacrifice so much for us. So I think it's our duty to give back to them.
Well, again, we appreciate all of that and are so excited to see a journey alongside and see what you're doing with that. So we'll be sure to let listeners know when stuff's happening and keep pointing them back to you in your direction with that as more information becomes available. But Brendan, we appreciate your time today. We don't want to take too much more of it, but thanks so much for joining us. And we wish you luck on the 2025 season and just really appreciate you spending 40 minutes with us.
No, I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. And I'm excited for the year and excited to see you guys in person.
Yes, we'll have to make that happen soon. Well, again, listeners, appreciate you tuning in as always, and we'll be back with another episode soon on Deal on the Cards.